Makkah Mukarramah is a very beautiful city. When you arrive there, you see all the people from the world gathered together. And they're all there for a purpose, and that purpose is to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I kid you not, sometimes I'm just doing tawaf, walking around the house of Allah, and I'm thinking to myself, imagine what the story is behind each person coming here, what sacrifices they've made. And every step you take, you're walking past someone, and that person is standing there with their hands raised, making dua to Allah, crying, and each person is calling out to Allah for something special and unique, something that matters to them. The most beautiful thing that I find is people sharing stories of them going to Makkah Mukarramah, standing in front of the Kaaba, raising their hands and making dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepting that dua for them while they're there. So, a few years back, we were with the Qalam Hajj group, myself, Ustad Murphy, Sheikh Abdul Nasir, Sheikh Mubin. We were all having breakfast together. And there was this brother that came from our group, and he said to me that, Sheikh, I want to share something with you. And I said, share. Go ahead, share it. So he shared this story, and I was so shocked by what he had told me that I recall calling him to our breakfast table where the other shuyukh were sitting, and I asked him to share that story again. And what he said was so ajib, so out of the world, that I kid you not, everyone on that table was in tears. This person, this friend of ours, is someone who has a child who has a hearing issue. And her hearing issue is unique. Therefore, a lot of the technology that helps her hear is still in development, and there's a lot of research still happening. So this friend of mine said that he was sitting in front of the Kaaba one day at the Hajj time, and he was sitting there just making dua, and he was reflecting in front of the Kaaba. And the night before, I had given a khatira, a small little reminder to the attendees, those in our Hajj group, that when you go to the Kaaba, ask Allah for whatever you want. Don't be afraid to ask Him. Be confident and watch how Allah gives you. So he was sitting in front of the Kaaba just reflecting over this, and he was making dua to Allah, and he said, I made two duas to Allah. The first dua that I made to Allah was that, Ya Allah, allow my daughter to be an inspiration. Let her legacy continue. Let her have a legacy. Let her be someone that can inspire other people. Now, as a parent who has a child with a certain disability, that's a big ask. And he said that I really put my courage together and put myself together, and I asked Allah this. And the second dua that I made was, Ya Allah, never prevent my child from fulfilling her responsibilities as a Muslim due to her disability. Let her always be a good Muslimah. Let her practice the deen like everyone else does. So this friend of mine, he says that I was just sitting there and I was, making this dua to Allah, and a person walked past. He's sitting in front of the Kaaba. It's jam-packed. Everyone's sitting everywhere. It's the Hajj time. This guy walks past. He's covered in sweat, and he sits down in front of me. He notices some water there. I give him some water. We start communicating. Hey, where are you from? Who are you? This person says, I'm from, I believe it was Iran. And my friend asked him, what do you do there? So he says to my friend that I am a specialist when it comes to hearing devices. So this friend of mine says, what? Hearing devices? What do you mean hearing devices? So he says, what I've been working on a technology that'll help people with a particular type of disability improve their hearing. This friend of mine says the disability he described was the exact disability his child had. The exact disability. And he's looking at this man and says, what? And this person says, I'm growing, my research is out there, but there are some roadblocks that I'm facing, and there's a lot of research in America. If I can get my hands on that, it would be great. So this friend of mine says, well, I'm from America, and I have access to a lot of this research because I'm in touch with some of the greatest specialists in the country. And this person that he met, this Irani man, said that if I could gain access to that research, I could potentially refine my device, and your contribution to this field could become your legacy. And this friend of mine, he said, I immediately started crying that, Ya Allah, I was so insignificant to you. All these people here are so much greater than I am. And I asked you for one thing and you gave it to me. And the second dua that he made was, Ya Allah, never let my child's hearing impediment impact them from being a good Muslim or Muslimah. He said, that same time, I was still sitting in the mataf in front of the Kaaba at the Hajj time, and I looked ahead of me, and there was a kid wearing the exact same hearing aid that my daughter wears. And I went and I talked to that kid and his father, and the kid was 16 years old. And his father said to me that his child has the exact same disease that his daughter has. And even though the case is rare and it's unique, with proper care and attention, there's nothing these children can't do. And he said that I'm here to take my son this year on Hajj. And my friend started crying again because he always wanted to bring his daughter to Hajj. He always wanted her to be a member from the community. And the reason why we were in tears is because seeing how meaningful this interaction was that this person had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how even though you could be surrounded by millions of people and hundreds of thousands of people in the Kaaba, everyone's chatting and making dua to Allah, and they're reading Quran and they're doing their dhikr. When you stand by the Kaaba, it's just this constant buzzing noise you hear in the background from everyone making their dua. But Allah hears every one of those duas and accepting them, right down to the person who's making dua for a child of his that is in another part of the world. Yet Allah hears it and Allah accepts it. You just have to come to Allah sincerely and ask from Him.